In the year 2273, Earth was at its brightest age. The planet had survived centuries of wars, climate troubles, and political struggles. Cities stretched high into the sky, glowing with clean energy drawn from the sun and the deep core of the Earth. Vast farms fed billions, and technology connected every corner of the world. Humanity was proud. They had reached the moon, Mars, the moons of Jupiter, and even built small stations orbiting far Neptune. Yet no matter how far people traveled, Earth remained the heart of everything. It was not only home, it was a symbol. No one expected it to vanish. The first sign was strange. Satellites circling Earth began to send back errors. They reported shadows where none should exist. One by one, their signals blinked out. On Mars, technicians monitoring Earth's weather systems thought it was a system failure. They laughed, saying someone forgot to update the software. But the laughter stopped when Earth itself began to shimmer in the sky. From the surface of the moon, a team of miners saw it first. They described Earth glowing with an unnatural light, like the surface of the ocean catching the sun. At first, they thought it was beautiful, but then the blue and green sphere rippled as if made of water. In the next heartbeat, it was gone. The moon remained. Artificial satellites still circled where Earth had been, but now they drifted aimlessly, unanchored. A great emptiness stretched between the moon and the sun. Where Earth had once turned proudly, there was now only space. On Mars, panic broke out. Crowds rushed to observatories. Families wept, thinking of loved ones they had spoken to only hours before. Ships tried to call Earth, but no response came. Every signal, every message was lost in silence. The colonies could not believe it. Earth was too big, too massive. How could a planet simply disappear? Scientists offered theories. A cosmic weapon, an experiment gone wrong, a rift in space-time. But none had proof. Humanity's cradle had vanished, and with it more than 9 billion souls. At first, many thought it must be temporary. Some leaders said Earth would return, like a stone skipped across water. Others whispered it had been stolen by powerful aliens. But time passed, and Earth did not come back. Life for the colonies changed overnight. On Mars, hydroponic farms were designed to support millions, but they had relied on constant shipments of seeds and biological samples from Earth. On Europa, engineers depended on Earth's industries for replacement parts. Without Earth, supplies would run out, people would starve, and more than food was lost. Earth was the cultural heart. Its music, its languages, its histories, all lived there. Colonists realized that without Earth, they were like branches cut from a tree. Some broke. On Titan, riots shook the domes. Angry crowds demanded answers, but none came. On the mining stations near Neptune, despair spread. People stopped working, staring into the empty sky, waiting for a glimpse of the world they had lost. But not everyone gave up. Among the scattered colonies rose groups determined to keep Earth alive in memory. They called themselves the Archivists of Terra. They gathered every book, every song, every recording they could find. They stored Earth's culture in great vaults of data, fearing one day it might vanish from human memory. One archivist leader, a woman named Saren Kyle, spoke before the Martian Council. Her words were simple. Earth may be gone, but humanity is not. If we forget Earth, then truly it is lost. But if we remember, Earth still lives in us. Her words inspired many, but the colonies remained fragile. Without Earth, humanity was like a ship adrift in a dark sea. They needed hope. Decades passed. People learned to survive without their homeworld. Mars grew stronger, building new farms and new industries. The moons of Jupiter formed trade networks. Stations in deep space created alliances. Yet always, behind every achievement, there was a shadow. Earth was gone. The mystery haunted every generation. Children grew up asking, where did Earth go? Theories spread like stars. Some believed Earth had slipped into another dimension. Some thought it had been hidden by ancient guardians. A few even believed Earth itself had chosen to leave, like a living being escaping danger. Though they argued, humanity never stopped searching. Small fleets called the Seekers set out into the galaxy. Their mission was simple: find Earth or find what had taken it. Many never returned. Those who did brought back stories of alien ruins, strange signals, and dead worlds, but never Earth. Still, the legend grew. Songs were written about the lost blue planet. Paintings showed it glowing in memory. Even children born hundreds of years after its vanishing would whisper before sleep, "One day we will see Earth again." But survival was never easy. Wars broke out between colonies fighting over resources. On Ceres, one governor declared himself the true heir of Earth and demanded loyalty from all humans. His reign ended in blood, but his claim was remembered. Others arose, calling themselves Earth's rightful rulers, even though none had set foot there. Yet through all the struggles, one fact remained. Humanity endured. Without Earth's oceans, they found water in icy moons. Without Earth's forests, they built greenhouses under artificial suns. Without Earth's soil, they learned to grow crops in dust and rock. They adapted as they always had, and slowly other species began to notice. Alien travelers, long curious about the noisy humans, now looked upon them with a mix of respect and fear. To survive without a homeworld was rare. Most species clung to their birth planet. But humans, torn from their cradle, still spread and thrived. 500 years passed. To the colonies, it felt like an eternity. Earth became legend, myth, even religion to some. The archivists still preserved the old records, and the seekers still launched their ships. But many began to believe Earth was truly gone forever. Then, on a quiet day in the year 2773, something changed. Astronomers on a station near Venus detected a strange fluctuation. It came from the exact place Earth had once been. At first they thought it was only a ghost signal, the echo of an ancient wound in spacetime, but then the fluctuation grew stronger. Lights rippled in the void, twisting and shining like a curtain of fire. Colonists gathered in silence as the empty space trembled. Sensors screamed with warnings, ships turned their cameras, and people held their breath. And in a sudden burst of light, Earth returned. The blue oceans, the green continents, the clouds drifting in white swirls. It was exactly as it had been 5 centuries before. But something was wrong. The planet glowed faintly as if wrapped in a hidden shell, and from its surface faint transmissions could be heard. They carried voices, music, even news broadcasts. The people of Earth were speaking, living, laughing, and to them only 5 years had passed. The return of Earth was still far in the future, but for centuries humanity lived without it. The vanishing had left a wound not only in the sky but also in the heart of every human being. To survive, they had no choice but to change, adapt, and keep moving forward. On Mars, the first few decades after Earth's disappearance were the hardest. The great domes that protected cities were filled with worried voices. Families gathered in public squares to listen to the council's announcements. They wanted hope, but the truth was cruel. Crops were dying in the hydroponic farms because the seeds had been designed to be renewed every generation with fresh ones shipped from Earth. Without new seeds, food supplies grew thin. Engineers worked night and day to find solutions. They experimented with Martian soil, even though it was poisonous to Earth plants. They filtered, they cleansed, and they tested. Many harvests failed, but slowly, after years of effort, the first strong crops grew on Mars without Earth's help. People cried when they tasted the bread made from Martian-grown wheat. It was not only food, it was survival. The moons of Jupiter faced their own battles. Europa, with its icy oceans, was rich with water but poor in life. Colonists there relied heavily on shipments from Earth. When those shipments stopped, fear spread quickly. Yet the people of Europa were stubborn. They built new machines to fish the dark oceans beneath the ice. Strange creatures were discovered, some dangerous, some useful. One, a jelly-like being that glowed in the dark, became a food source. Colonists even gave it a name, Lumina fish. Slowly, Europa learned to feed itself. Meanwhile, Titan, Saturn's moon, struggled with riots and unrest. Titan's air was thick and yellow, its cities built inside giant domes. When Earth vanished, panic burned hotter there than anywhere else. People fought in the streets, demanding answers, demanding food. But even in that chaos, leaders rose. They created new systems of order, teaching their people to build, to share, and to survive. Over time, Titan's cities became disciplined, almost militaristic, but they endured. Farther out, on stations orbiting Neptune and Pluto, despair nearly destroyed the colonies. Cut off from the sun's warmth, they relied on steady supplies from Earth. Without them, many stations were abandoned. Ships carried survivors inward, back to Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The farther colonies became ghost lights in the dark, reminders of how fragile humanity truly was. And yet, even in this darkness, there was light. Humanity's greatest strength was always its ability to adapt. Where one colony fell, another rose. Where one station died, another grew stronger. The archivists of Terra, born from sorrow, became a voice of hope. On Mars, in the underground city of Ares Prime, the archivists built their first vault. It was a chamber of crystal and steel, filled with everything they could save: books, music, films, even simple children's drawings from Earth. They swore an oath: so long as one archivist lives, Earth will never be forgotten. Generations later, that oath still lived. Children visited the vaults to see pictures of Earth's oceans and mountains. Many cried when they saw the images, even though they had never set foot there. To them, Earth was not just history. It was family. Centuries rolled by and humanity grew stronger in space. New technologies were born. On Mars, fusion reactors powered entire cities. On Europa, great ships drilled deep into the oceans, creating warmth and energy from the planet's core. On Titan, engineers built massive ships called skybreakers, able to travel between worlds with unmatched speed. With time, humanity spread farther. Some ventured beyond the solar system, building outposts on nearby stars. They carried with them fragments of Earth, songs, seeds, stories. Everywhere they went, they carried the dream of the lost blue planet. But not all was peace. As humans spread, so did conflict. Different colonies grew into different cultures. Mars became proud and independent, calling itself the Red Throne. Europa became cautious and scientific, valuing discovery above all. Titan became disciplined and stern, valuing order and strength. And among them, rivalries grew, wars broke out. Fleets clashed in the void. On Ceres, asteroid miners declared themselves the rightful heirs of Earth and demanded tribute from passing ships. Their rebellion was crushed, but at great cost. Humanity had survived Earth's disappearance, but unity was slipping away. It was during these wars that aliens first took notice. For centuries, humans had dreamed of life beyond the stars, but few had ever seen it. Then one day, ships from Mars met travelers near the edges of the solar system. They were not human. Their bodies were tall and slender, their skin like glass, glowing with inner light. They called themselves the Elyari. The Elyari watched humanity with great curiosity. They had existed for tens of thousands of years, but never before had they seen a species lose its homeworld and yet continue to expand. To the Elyari, humans were strange. They should have collapsed, faded away, and been forgotten. Instead, they fought, struggled, and adapted. Other species soon followed. Traders, explorers, even conquerors arrived to test humanity's strength. Some came with gifts, others with threats. Yet every time, humans stood firm. They bargained when they could. They fought when they must. Slowly, a reputation formed among the stars. Humans were survivors. But survival came with a price. Many humans began to forget what Earth had truly been like. The stories told in the archivist vaults seemed more like legends than memories. Some children even doubted Earth had ever existed at all. They thought it was only a myth, a tale to give people hope. Still, there were always the seekers. Across the centuries, brave men and women launched expeditions into the galaxy. Their ships were often small, their journeys long, but they carried one mission: find Earth. Some returned with strange reports of planets that looked almost like Earth, but none were the same. Others returned with wrecked ships and haunted eyes, speaking of dangers too great to face. And many never returned at all. Even so, the seekers never stopped. To them, the search was not only about finding a planet, it was about proving that humanity still cared, that they had not abandoned their cradle. On the 400th anniversary of the vanishing, the archivists held a great gathering on Mars. People from every colony came. They played Earth's old songs. They showed pictures of its mountains, its rivers, its skies. For a moment, the colonies were united. Children laughed, elders wept, and voices rose together in promise. One day, Earth will return. By the 500th year, however, hope had grown thin. Many had stopped believing. Wars, discoveries, and the endless struggle for survival filled people's lives. Earth was now more legend than reality. But legends have power, and deep in the stars, humanity's legend was about to change. Because after 5 long centuries of struggle, when Earth finally returned, humanity was no longer the same. They were no longer fragile children of one planet. They were something more, something the galaxy had not expected, and soon Earth itself would learn what its children had become. For 500 years, humanity had survived without Earth. They had built cities under domes, carved homes in ice, and sailed between the stars. Earth was a memory, a song, a story whispered at night. Many no longer believed they would ever see it again. But in the year 2773, the impossible happened. It began quietly, with a single astronomer working on a station near Venus. Her name was Tira Solon, and she was checking routine readings from the old orbits. The instruments scanned empty space where Earth should have been. For centuries, these scans had shown nothing but silence. But this time, Tira saw a flicker. At first, she thought it was an error. She cleaned the lens, reset the sensors, and tried again. The flicker grew brighter. The empty coordinates where Earth had once spun were glowing with strange light. She called her supervisor, who called the station commander, who then called the Martian Council. Within hours, the signal was confirmed. Something was returning. Across the solar system, people stopped what they were doing and turned their eyes to the void. On Mars, crowds filled the plazas. On Europa, children pressed against glass domes. On Titan, soldiers halted drills and stared at the skies. Even alien traders paused their ships, curious. The glow swelled into a sphere. It rippled like a curtain of water. Then, in a flash of brilliance, a world appeared. It was Earth. Blue oceans sparkled under sunlight. Green continents stretched wide. White clouds drifted in beautiful swirls. It looked exactly as it had 500 years earlier, as if no time had passed. For a moment, there was silence. Then the colonies erupted in cheers and tears. People embraced, sang, and cried. Earth was back. But joy quickly turned to confusion. Sensors detected an invisible barrier surrounding the planet. Ships sent to approach were forced back, their engines sputtering against unseen resistance. It was as though Earth was wrapped in a protective shell. Then came the signals. At first they were faint, radio waves leaking through cracks in the barrier. But as equipment tuned in, voices emerged. Music, news broadcasts, even laughter. The people of Earth were alive. To them, only 5 years had passed since the vanishing. When the colonies sent a message, no answer came. The barrier allowed Earth's signals to escape, but none could enter. The two halves of humanity were separated by a wall of silence. On Mars, leaders debated fiercely. Some argued Earth was sacred and should be left untouched until the mystery was understood. Others demanded action, saying they had waited too long to simply watch. The Martian Council called upon the archivists of Terra for wisdom. Archivist Saren Kale's descendant, Jaren Kale, stood before the council. His family had guarded Earth's memory for generations. He spoke calmly. Earth has returned, but it is not the same. 5 centuries have passed for us, but only 5 years for them. We must be patient. We must learn why. The Seekers, however, were restless. They had searched the stars for centuries. To them, Earth was not a mystery to study, but a promise fulfilled. Many prepared their ships, eager to land the moment the barrier fell. Meanwhile, alien empires also watched with interest. The Elyari, those beings of light, sent envoys offering help. They warned that such sudden reappearances were rare and dangerous. Another species, the Venar, whispered that Earth was cursed and would bring ruin to all who touched it. Traders, pirates, and explorers gathered at the edges of the solar system, waiting to see what humanity would do. Inside the barrier, Earth's people lived as if nothing extraordinary had happened. They broadcast news about politics, sports, and daily life. They spoke of rebuilding after small climate troubles and celebrating new space programs. They had no idea that their planet had vanished for 5 centuries. The colonies listened in wonder. For them, Earth was legend. For Earth's people, the colonies were only far-off stations. The difference was staggering. On Titan, Commander Hale watched the signals with disbelief. They are still living in the 23rd century, he muttered. Do they even know we exist? On Europa, scientist Lyra Den whispered to her students, for us, Earth is history. For them, it is still the present. What happens when the past meets the future? For months, the barrier remained unbroken. Colonies sent probes, but all failed to pass. Finally, one small probe managed to slip through a crack and return data. What it revealed shocked everyone. Inside the barrier, time flowed differently. For Earth, only a handful of years had passed since the vanishing. Their cities, their cultures, their people, all were frozen in the age of 2273. To them, humanity had only just begun to explore the stars. The colonies were faced with a strange reality. 2 branches of humanity now existed. One ancient, scattered, and hardened by 500 years of survival. The other young, untouched, and unaware of what had happened. The question was, how would they meet? On Mars, a great council gathered. Leaders from every colony attended, even from distant stars. For the first time in centuries, humanity came together in unity. They argued long into the night. Should they reveal themselves to Earth? Should they wait? Should they let Earth remain ignorant, or should they share the truth? In the end, one decision was made. When the barrier fell, contact would be peaceful. Humanity would reunite no matter the shock it brought. But not everyone agreed. Secret groups whispered that Earth was weak and the colonies should rule over it. Others believed Earth should rule them, for it was the birthplace of all. And still others feared the truth, that Earth's return was not natural. For deep in the records of the archivists, Jaron Kale uncovered something strange. Among ancient files, he found fragments of old transmissions sent at the time of the vanishing. They hinted that Earth's disappearance had not been an accident. Instead, it was triggered by a hidden defense system older than humanity itself. If that was true, then Earth had been protected. But from what? Before answers could be found, the barrier finally began to weaken. It flickered like a fading flame. Sensors screamed as energy levels dropped. Then in a burst of light, the barrier fell. Earth was open once more. Colonial ships prepared at once. Fleets from Mars, Europa, and Titan launched toward the blue planet. Pilots trembled with excitement. Generations had waited for this moment. On Earth, scientists were shocked as alien-looking ships appeared in their skies. Their world had been peaceful, calm, untouched. Now, strange vessels hovered above, their hulls glowing with unfamiliar designs. The people of Earth did not know that these were not aliens at all. They were humans, descendants of their own kind, shaped by 5 centuries of hardship. The reunion of humanity had begun. The fleets from Mars, Europa, and Titan approached Earth carefully. For 5 centuries, humanity had lived without its cradle, and now it was before them in all its untouched beauty. Cities gleamed with fresh energy. Oceans sparkled like sapphires, and green forests stretched farther than anyone remembered. To the colonists, Earth was both beautiful and strange. It was familiar yet untouched by centuries of adaptation. Their own worlds were hardened, shaped by survival. Domes, artificial soils, recycled air. But Earth remained soft, natural, and unspoiled. The first ships hovered above the largest continents. Flags from Mars, Europa, and Titan flapped silently inside their hulls. Pilots held their breath. Everyone knew this moment would define the future of humanity. Below on Earth, scientists noticed the strange vessels. To them, these ships were alien. They had never seen such advanced designs. From the skies, the first people disembarked, humans but different. Their eyes had seen worlds beyond imagination. Their bodies bore marks of centuries of adaptation. Some had cybernetic implants, others wore uniforms built to survive hostile planets. The Earth humans gathered. Children stared at the newcomers, whispering to their parents. Adults were wary. These beings spoke languages that were familiar yet strange. Their accents were different, their knowledge beyond comprehension. Colonial leaders stepped forward. Jaron Kale from Mars raised his hand in greeting. "We come in peace," he said. "We are your children. Descendants of the world, you know. We have waited 500 years to see you again." There was a long silence. Then a scientist from Earth, Leora Neth, stepped forward. Her voice trembled. "You are human?" she asked. "You speak our language?" "Yes," Jaron replied. "We are your kin, though we have changed." The Earth humans stared. They were seeing their own kind, yet different. Their visitors were taller, stronger, and moved with confidence. They wore suits and devices no one had ever seen. And in their eyes, Earth humans saw knowledge shaped by struggle, survival, and loss. It was a moment of wonder, but also tension. In the days that followed, the two branches of humanity tried to understand one another. The Earth humans were fascinated by the colonists' stories. They heard of cities on Mars, of ice farms on Europa, of skybreakers on Titan. They listened to tales of fleets traveling between stars, of alien species met and studied, of human ingenuity tested beyond the solar system. For them, it sounded like fiction. "We have only just begun exploring space," one said. You have seen it all?" The colonists, however, could not hide their astonishment. Earth was unchanged. Its people lived as if the past 5 centuries had not happened. They lacked the innovations necessary for survival in hostile environments. Their technology was advanced by 23rd century standards, but not by the colony's age. To the colonists, Earth was both precious and fragile, a living museum of what once was. Arguments arose. On Mars, Commander Hale whispered to his council, "We cannot simply follow their rules. They are unprepared for the galaxy's dangers." On Earth, President Maravane declared, "These newcomers are strange. They speak as if they own the stars. But Earth belongs to us as it always has. We will not be ruled by strangers even if they claim kinship." Tension grew further when alien species arrived. Some, like the Eliari, watched quietly, curious to see if humanity would unite or divide. Others, like the Vanar, whispered suggestions to both sides, hoping to exploit the conflict. Traders and scouts hovered at the edges of the solar system, sensing opportunity. Despite the tension, communication continued. Children from both sides met. They played games and shared stories, often without understanding the gravity of what was happening. For the first time in centuries, Earth humans and colonists laughed together. Yet for adults, the divide was stark. The colonists tried to explain the dangers they had faced: alien species, harsh planets, and interstellar politics. They spoke of fleets armed with weapons that Earth had never imagined. To the Earth humans, these tales sounded like myths, frightening and impossible. The Earth humans, in turn, spoke of traditions lost to the colonies, of music, of festivals, of forests and oceans they had preserved in memory, of a world that had been safe and nurturing for countless generations. For the colonists, these stories sounded naive, almost foolish. They had fought to survive, but Earth humans had simply lived. Both sides felt a mixture of pride and resentment. The colonies had survived without a home, while Earth had remained untouched and unaware. Each saw the other as incomplete. Jaron Kale realized that humanity's survival depended on understanding. He gathered a council of leaders from both sides. "We are the same species," he said. "We share DNA, history, and dreams. But we have grown apart. We must learn from one another or we risk losing everything." The council agreed to a series of joint missions. Colonial engineers helped Earth scientists improve infrastructure. Earth's natural resources were shared with colonies, teaching them to grow food more efficiently and improve their energy systems. Children exchanged lessons, blending cultures, yet under the surface, conflict lingered. Some colonists wanted to assert authority, believing their survival experience gave them the right to lead. Some Earth humans resisted, believing that their planet, as the birthplace of all humanity, gave them the ultimate claim. It became clear that the struggle was not only political, it was cultural. On Titan, Commander Hale warned, "If we cannot find common ground, we may fight. And if we fight, we give opportunity to outsiders." The alien presence was subtle but powerful. The Eliari continued to observe, offering advice only when asked. The Vanar, however, encouraged tension, hoping a small conflict would let them gain influence over humanity's future. Meanwhile, the archivists uncovered a long-hidden secret. Buried deep in Earth's ancient records were clues that the vanishing had been caused by a protective mechanism. This mechanism, created by humans long before recorded history, had shielded Earth from a cosmic threat. If true, it meant Earth had never been alone. And if the threat still existed, both branches of humanity would need to unite, not for politics but for survival. As weeks passed, small steps of trust emerged. Earth humans learned to pilot ships, to use tools built for harsh worlds. Colonists learned to appreciate Earth's culture, its history, its untouched beauty. They shared songs, meals, and stories. And yet, even as bonds formed, whispers of division remained. In the night skies, alien scouts watched. Traders prepared to intervene. And deep in the archives, Jaron Kale realized that the vanishing's original cause might still pose a threat. Earth had returned, but the galaxy had not grown safer in its absence. Humanity's greatest challenge was not only to reunite, but to survive together, or risk losing everything they had fought for. The stage was set. Two branches of humanity, separated by time and experience, now stood face to face. They were similar yet different, proud, strong, and wary, and all the while the universe watched, waiting to see whether humanity would unite or fall apart. For centuries, humanity had struggled without its cradle. Colonies had risen from dust and ice, forging lives on harsh worlds. Earth had become a memory, a legend, a dream. Then 500 years after it vanished, it returned. Two branches of humanity now faced each other, one hardened by survival among the stars, the other unspoiled, living as if nothing had changed. Yet the greatest challenge lay ahead. The archivists of Terra, led by Jaren Kale, had discovered fragments of ancient records hinting at Earth's disappearance. Hidden in coded messages and old satellite logs was a secret. The vanishing had not been an accident. Earth had been shielded by a defense system, built long before recorded history. Its purpose was to protect the planet from a cosmic threat, but the threat had not disappeared. Sensors from the colonies detected movement beyond the solar system, a fleet of dark alien vessels approaching at impossible speed. Their shapes were unlike anything humanity had seen, sleek, black, and pulsating with energy. They were the ones who had driven the defense mechanism to activate centuries ago. Panic spread quickly. Earth's people had no idea the universe was dangerous. Colonists, however, had faced alien species, hostile worlds, and survival threats beyond imagination. They knew humanity alone could not defeat this enemy without unity. Jaren Kale called a council with leaders from both branches. "The time for debate is over," he said. "The enemy that once threatened Earth has returned. If we do not act together, we will lose everything: our home, our people, our history." President Mara Vane of Earth hesitated. "These strangers claim kinship," she said. "But I cannot risk my people blindly following them." Commander Hale of Titan spoke next. "We do not ask for blind trust. We ask for cooperation. We have survived the galaxy. We know what this threat is capable of. Together we can protect Earth and all humanity." It was a difficult decision, but in the end unity won. Both branches prepared for battle. Ships from Mars, Europa, and Titan were stationed in orbit above Earth. The planet itself became a hub of preparation. Scientists, engineers, and civilians worked side by side to strengthen defenses. Earth's natural resources, previously untapped, were shared to build weapons, shields, and energy arrays. Children from both sides helped too. They may have been too young for battle, but their ideas inspired engineers. One child suggested a new pattern for energy shields after observing the flow of clouds over Earth. Another created a model for faster transport of supplies across cities using simple magnets. Even in play, they contributed to humanity's survival. Finally, the alien fleet arrived. Darkness spread across the stars as the ships appeared on sensors, closing fast. Their presence was terrifying. Energy pulses radiated from their hulls, freezing small ships in space. The colony's weapons were powerful, but alone they would not be enough. The battle began above Earth. Colonial ships and Earth's forces, now equipped with new defenses, engaged the enemy. Fire erupted in space, lighting the void with dazzling explosions. Humans had faced death countless times over 5 centuries, but this was different. They were fighting not only for survival, but for their home, their history, and their unity. At first, the alien vessels seemed unstoppable. Their speed, strength, and technology were beyond anything humans had faced. Many ships were damaged, some destroyed. Morale faltered. But humanity refused to yield. Jaren Kale piloted one of the lead ships, coordinating fleets from different colonies and Earth. He shouted commands across channels, guiding pilots through the chaos. His voice carried calm and focus, inspiring courage even in the face of overwhelming odds. Earth's people, once untouched by danger, fought bravely as well. Scientists and engineers aboard their stations activated defense arrays that were centuries old but powerful. Using strategies learned from the colonies, they aimed with precision, striking alien vessels in vulnerable spots. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Humans adapted mid-battle, anticipating enemy movements and finding weaknesses in their formations. Colonists and Earth humans fought together, each contributing unique skills. Martian pilots used speed and agility. Titan soldiers brought tactical discipline. Europa scientists predicted enemy behavior, and Earth engineers maintained the planet's shields. Then came the decisive moment. The alien fleet attempted a massive strike against Earth's core defense array. It was the moment that could destroy the planet. Jaren Kale made a bold decision. Using a fleet of the fastest ships, he led a daring strike directly into the heart of the enemy formation. Earth's people coordinated massive energy beams from the surface, striking the enemy from below. In a synchronized attack, The combined efforts shattered the alien flagship. One by one, the rest of the fleet fell or retreated into the darkness of space. Silence returned to the stars. Humanity had survived. Earth remained intact. For the first time, the two branches of humanity truly understood one another. The colonies had learned that Earth was not weak. Its people were resilient, clever, and resourceful in ways the stars had never tested. Earth's people learned that the colonies were not heartless. They were driven by survival, courage, and love for their shared species. In the days that followed, humans celebrated, not only for victory, but for unity. Children played among forests and cities, learning the histories of both their worlds. Scientists, engineers, and leaders continued to work together, ensuring that Earth would never again be unprepared. Archivists preserved the records of the battle, the strategies, and the heroism of both sides. They recorded the lesson learned. Humanity's true strength did not lie in technology alone, nor in resources, nor even in experience. It lay in adaptability, courage, and the willingness to stand together when faced with the impossible. Jaren Kale and President Mara Vane walked together across one of Earth's mountains. They watched fleets orbit the planet, now peaceful, and children playing in cities. 500 years separated us, Mara said softly. But in the end, we are still one people. Jaren nodded. We learned that we are stronger together than apart. Earth is not just a planet. It is a symbol of what humanity can endure, survive, and overcome. The Elyari and other alien species, who had observed quietly, now acknowledged humanity's strength. Whispers spread across the galaxy. Humans were not to be underestimated. They could survive anything, adapt to anything, and rise stronger each time. Earth itself became a hub, not just of survival, but of unity. Colonies remained, connected through trade and communication, but now they had a common center, a home where humans from across the stars could gather, learn, and grow. In the end, the vanishing had been a test. 5 centuries of struggle had prepared humanity for a moment when two branches would reunite, when courage and ingenuity would be needed above all else, and they had passed the test. The future stretched before them, wide and limitless. Together, Earth's people and the colonies looked to the stars, ready for whatever challenges awaited. Not as separate worlds, not as isolated civilizations, but as one humanity, resilient, brilliant, and unbreakable. And for the first time in centuries, humans could say with certainty, no matter what the universe threw at them, they would endure, for Earth had returned and humanity was stronger than ever.